What I want to do in this demo is to show how to configure and apply access control list. So first thing I guess to do is to demonstrate that we have connectivity, and then what do we want to do? Just to demonstrate the lists, what I want to do is permit this 3.2 address access out of this interface on this router, which is going to be interface gigabit 00, and not permit all of the other machines on the 3 network. We can do the same here. We can permit the 1.2 address and deny the 1.3 address. After that, we'll do a named list that allows this guy to access to the 1 network and not everybody else, or something like that. But anyhow, the first thing that we need to do is to get into our router, and we'll do enable and show the IP route. So we have IP routes here, and this is because of the way that it wraps back around with the larger font, so it makes it easier to see. Let's do an IP interface brief, which is IP interface will show the interfaces. IP, if we do a show, it probably would work better. IP interface brief gives us the name of the interface, gigabit 00, and then 192.168.1.2. But what we wanted to do is to do an access list. An access list, question mark, 1 to 99 is IP standard, 100 to 199 is extended. There are more addresses available now, but we'll do IP access list 1, and we're going to permit 192. Let's type the host name. Host 192.168.3.2. Remember, we can only control in a standard access list the source IP address. The next thing we want to do, we have to type IP access list again, and let's just kind of cheat and go up here and permit, and it's not going to be host. You've seen the typos that I do, and the wildcard mask will be 0.0.0.255. Went to the next line, so we're going to, actually what we wanted to do was to deny that one, wasn't it? We don't want to permit, we want to deny. So okay, let's just start the whole thing over. IP access list 1, deny 192.168.3.0, 0.0.0.255. Maybe that is the easier way to do it. So we can do, actually what we wanted to do was permit the 1.2 and deny the 1.3, right? So access list 1, permit host 192.168.1.2, and then we want to deny host 1.1. I can now show my access lists, and it gives me a list of what's going on, and we have the numbers here, and those are handy. That's a new thing, that you're going to get the numbers even in the named lists. So we're going to permit 3.2, and then we're going to deny everything else on the network, and we're going to permit this one and deny this host. We really don't need this statement because there is a default at the end that will stop that. We'll try to demonstrate that here just in a second. Okay, so let's see if we can. We haven't applied it yet, and I want to show that it is a 2-step process, and I've done a whole bunch of stuff here, but anyhow, if we go into here, it's ping 192.168.2.2, I get a reply. If I go into one of these guys and ping 192.168, we get a reply. We've written the access control list. but we haven't applied it anywhere. So what we need to do is to, let me get out of that, go to my gigabit 00 interface. Let me stretch this out, and go into see, config T interface gig 0/0, and we do IP access group, and then the word, the name of the access control list, or the number, and we used 1, so 1, and then we have to do enter out. In this case, we want to do it on the outbound interface. So we should now show access list. We have some previous matches, and this was before it got on it originally. Now if I go back here and ping 2.2, I'm good. And this is the one that was permitted, the 3.2 address. If I go to the other address, I get destination host unreachable. And what this should show, and we have 16 here, show access list, we have 20 here. What this tells us when we show access list is how many times that the matches have been invoked. The ones that we had before were when I was trying it out while the recording was off. So we don't have anything on the 1 and the 2. So let's try these guys down here and see what we can get. You can see here that before we could get to the 2.2, and we can still get to the 2.2, and I think this is the one it's supposed to be able to. From the 1.3, we could previously get there before we applied that access list, and now we have the destination host unreachable. And if we go back and do a show access list again, we have 12 matches, and then 20 matches, and then 4 matches on the permit, and then I've got that one in there with 1.1, which would be the default gateway. So we don't have anything on it. I guess that we could go in and add to the access list. So it's access list 1, and then we're going to deny, and we got the deny you saw there, even though it's not listed from the implicit deny at the end. We had to deny 192.168.1.1. We don't have the 1.3. We could put 1.3 in here, but as you can see, it would be an unnecessary statement. So once we're at the end, we can simply leave it if we want to deny everything else. If there were others that we needed to do here, we would need to do a permit any, and I really should do a permit any after this in case we had a 4 network that we added to it. If we did that, then our 4 network wouldn't be there. So let's go ahead and do that. Config T, and we do access list permit any, and that will then allow anything that's not denied above it to go through that interface on the outbound interface. The next thing that we said we would do, IP access list, and then we have to specify standard or extended, and then we can put a number in here. We can use numbers or names, and I'm going to use a name. We'll call it my list. And in this case, let me drag this down. Let's stop 1.2 from getting to 3.2 and allow 1.3 to get to 3.2. See if we can make that one work. A little bit of difference here when you do this. We want to permit host 192.168.1.2, And you notice that it comes up with standard ACL again here. All we have to do is keep going. And in this case, after we've done our one permit, we really don't have to do anything else there. One other thing that I do want to do is I've made this its DNS server, so let's go ahead and permit it to get back to it. So we would go in here and permit host 192.168.2.2. Now we will apply it, and what we want to do is apply it to this interface here. And I have to look, and it is going to be interface gigabit Ethernet 02. So we can go back to our router here and get out of here and go into interface gig 0/2. And one of the ways that we could do that, because we're permitting and denying to the 3 network, here we go, gig 02. So interface gig 0/2, and we're going to still do IP access group and then access list name or the number that we're going to use, and it was my list, right? My list. And here we're going to divide inbound or outbound, and this one would be out again. If we're applying it in, we would stop traffic going into the network. And as you recall, that the standard list should be applied closest to the destination. My stupid way to remember that is SD San Diego. So let's see if we can, and this is all, haven't tried these out, ping 192.168.1.3.2, and we're there. One of the things that I didn't do before we applied the access control list is to test the system to see if it worked before we do the ACL, because one thing that I do know is that if it didn't work before you applied the access control list, it won't work after. 8.3.2, and then we have the destination host unreachable. We can now go back to our router and show access lists. We have both of them. Permit, we have 4 matches. Permit host 192.168.2.2. We didn't get anything there. I actually put a web server on here. Let's see if we can make some of it work. But I have to look in the right place. I forgot web server. So if we go to one of these guys and go to, let's see if it works, web server. And sometimes it just takes a long time to get all of the simulator stuff going. Well, let's try 1.2, and it's still not allowing it. Let's look at our access control list and see if it did anything for us. Actually, before we do that, let's go in here and see if we can ping 192.168.2.2, and we get a destination host unreachable. Oh, I know why. Because we have an access control list over here that affects getting in and out of this network. So one of the things that you do have to be careful of when you're applying access control lists is that they don't interfere with each other. So that's an overview of how to configure and apply access control lists. After waiting a while, let's go back to this guy. This is the PC0, which is this guy here. So we should now, what I want to do is, let's see, 192.168.2.2, so we can get to our web server. We can go in the other direction. When we do these things, we kind of gotta, you really do have to worry about what goes on these things. And here we have 17 matches, just that the simulator really didn't like doing my DNS, and sometimes it takes a little while for it to start up. So we're permitting the host, the web server, to go back and forth on these guys. And I still shouldn't be able to get there 2.2 on these. We still have a deny on those. So request timed out. So that tells me that something is stopping the traffic from getting there. So that does go through. Yes, we can do that, and yes, you do need to be careful when you have multiple access control lists on multiple interfaces on a router.